Right, exactly. It's a Pyrrhic victory.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I
What
don't
if
know.
though,
That's a very
like,
interesting theory.
I mean, yeah. So like my argument would be this. So think about the model layer. So in the model layer, when the first, I think it was GPT-3 came out, it was a huge breakthrough, right? Because they basically, OpenAI realized that the scaling laws, you just throw more compute and data at the problem and you can kind of get a better model. And so if you look at the charts of like of performance of models at that time, the GPT-3 model was like so far ahead of all the other competitors at Google, Microsoft, and all the open source models. What's happened is that over time, there's been a convergence where actually now the best model by most people's assessment is Gemini, the Google model, which recently came out. And the Chinese models, the DeepSeeks, are actually not that far behind. So I think what you're seeing is, yes, initially there is this view that there's a winner take all element. Whereas if you're OpenAI and you invent, the best model, that'll just lead to a runaway advantage. But I think what's happening is actually the opposite, where there's kind of a convergence where maintaining leadership's hard. GPT, what are we on now? The last two,
five,
We're
six?
on 5
5.2,
point something.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
5.2 and 5.1 were basically the same. Five, there's been kind of like a diminishing, like asymptoting of the performance for the OpenAI models, while the other models have converged, right? Which to me says, all right, these are all kind of commoditized. I have all four models, or I have those two plus like Grok and like Claude installed on my phone, and I will just go to them kind of randomly. It doesn't even matter, like whatever my finger happens to touch, I'll open up.
I just put an AI folder on my phone yesterday. Like, I'm like,
Yeah,
well, I go to this AI for this thing, and I go to this AI for this other thing. And yeah,
Well,
you're right. Like, it's,
yeah. And I mean, to your point, it's true. I mean, the difference between 4 and 5, to me, I hardly noticed a difference. And the amount of infrastructure that was required to get there was exorbitant.
yeah, it's a good
that's
point.
right.
And
Yeah,
maybe that's like how, you could be Apple and just let all these other guys play this game and then just invite the winner to, or maybe not even
make
the
a
winner,
deal.
but yeah,
Right.
exactly. Right. Like,
Yeah,
it's,
with your
you
with
know,
your huge amount of cash.
yeah, I mean, you're taking a back seat. You're watching this all unfold. You're not spending the same exorbitant, massive quantity of money on that, and it's maybe that's the right strategy. But I also think that some of these, like take Nvidia for example, they're recognizing that the manufacturing business is this, and their SaaS business is this, and if they can build this out, then it creates some more sustainability. And I think some of this is like understanding the various layers or
Yeah.
silos, even in some cases, of the business. If you think about AT&T, like you brought up earlier, you know maybe their mistake wasn't in spending all this money on the fiber. I think it probably was, but whatever. Like, we built out all this fiber. We're all benefiting from it now. That's great. A company's still around. I'm happy for them. But what they didn't do is, I don't think they thought about cell phones, right? And like the second derivative, like 2 steps away from laying out this fiber, created the roadmap for the Wi-Fi that
Yeah.
then they didn't really benefit. They still have, they put that out there, but they lost, I guess, the opportunity to be maybe an Apple in that situation.
I was just gonna say, so to that point, like if you're AT&T and all these other companies that spent these trillions of dollars building out the system, like who benefited? And I guess what are the thoughts there?
Well, so the real winners of the internet were like Netflix and
Right.
Meta
Right.
and Google, who not only did they came around a little later, and they didn't have to make the massive investments in infrastructure. Right, as I mentioned, Google was a capital light business. They had raised a few, maybe tens of millions of dollars or whatever before IPOing. These companies not only benefited from that, but they also benefited from the ability to access subsidized fiber, right? Because as I mentioned, 85% of fiber was dark, and the price of bandwidth collapsed 90% after the AI bust. So they came in afterwards like, great, like we're going to scoop up this internet bandwidth at like a bargain price, and that was a huge asset that they had, going into this thing. So I think, like to your points, like we should really think about like the AI stack, right? And recognize that NVIDIA is on one tier. They're making GPUs. Their competitors are maybe like AMD and like the TPUs that Google makes, and Amazon's making one too, or the chip. And then there's other kind of parts of the AI supply chain on the hardware side. Then there's like the data center companies. There's like the pure plays like CoreWeave, Nebius, Iron, some of these like former crypto miners, as well as like the hyperscalers, like the traditional cloud businesses like AWS, and you have Meta as well, even though they don't have a public cloud. And then you have the model layers. You have Anthropic and OpenAI in the mix, right? And then you have the customers, as well, the folks who are like you and me. Like, I have this. Like, look at this. This thing here is like, oh, I use 10 billion tokens, so OpenAI sent me a gift because I'm like a customer. And it's cool because like I can do that and they subsidize my costs in the same way that when Uber first came about, right? Like you got like rides for so cheap because like the VCs were subsidizing it. And to the extent, and maybe the plan is to eventually jack it up once it becomes an indispensable utility. But the thing is that what happens if like they overbuild? If they overbuild, then the prices collapse, and we'll be able to get this for forever, basically, for the foreseeable future.